Talking about Ninja Gaiden is a difficult task. It's a dangerous task since it's one of those games with a very particular and passionate fan base. They know what they want and they are not happy when they don't get it. I enjoyed a good deal of Ninja Gaiden 4, but I don't like it as much as the first two. However, like the first two, I also have very little desire to replay it. As much as I love the combat in the Ninja Gaiden series, uneven level design, pacing, boss fights, enemy design, encounter design, and a story that just doesn't interest me, all limit my fandom from rising past the casual. Well, more than casual, because I enjoy playing on the hard difficulty. I'm happy to spend hours in a single fight until I get it, and I try not to use any healing items. That's more than casual, but still far from hardcore. I don't study the deepest mechanics. I couldn't make a video about what makes a Ninja Gaiden game a Ninja Gaiden game. I like the combat, the gore, the juggles, the iframe strategies, the resource management. I think they're fun, but seriously flawed games. I'm gonna talk about what I enjoyed about Ninja Gaiden 4, but I'm largely gonna focus on what I see as the main issues, and they're likely not going to be the same ones as the more knowledgeable fans have. This is entirely from my perspective as a more casual fan, thinking about what I value when it comes to games in general and how I play this genre. The first issue is tutorialization. The first level of the game is wrong. It's one long tutorial, and it's just the worst tutorial I've seen since Slitterhead last year. You can't just front-load the opening 30 minutes with 20 different tutorial prompts and expect people to understand what's going on. For as intense as the old Ninja Gaiden games are, they are actually fairly straightforward in their presentation. If you revisit the first game, it's amazing how much they let you just feel out your kit. There are only a handful of tutorial pop-ups. There are only a handful of attack options. You don't even have air combos yet. There's plenty to learn and unlock, but they space it out. This time, there's a lot more to learn and they cram it all into one level. Tutorial after tutorial is flying in your face, and that's not good when a lot of this is crucial to survival and the game front loads you with all these available combo routes. Look at this. This is an absurd amount of combos to list at the beginning of the game, and it's absolutely because this is the studio that made Bayonetta. I had the same exact criticism of that game. Too many combo options available from level 1. I don't know how anyone comes to this as their first Ninja Gaiden, which many will, and doesn't get instantly overwhelmed by all the combo options and the dozens of tutorial prompts about what they need to know. It's just a really poor onboarding process, and I can't blame anyone for bouncing off quickly because they just don't get it. It's crazy that they're immediately introducing these blood-powered attacks that can break armor but can also be charged, so that's another 6 different attacks right there that can also be used in the air, on top of the Berserk mode, which also allows blood attacks to insta-kill. It feels like they're trying to scream at every Ninja Gaiden player, hey, check out all this new stuff, instead of making sure anyone coming to the franchise after a 15-year absence can grasp what the hell's going on. They want to instantly grant this massive playground of stylish options instead of introducing them in a way that feels natural. Thank God I already know how to play Ninja Gaiden, because if I didn't, this could have been a disaster. Because when you introduce this much stuff at once, it's easy to not see how important it all is. It's easy to forget to experiment with it because you're still trying to figure out the basics. Camera movement, dashing, striking, parrying, the D-limb mechanic. We gotta juggle 24 combos, 6 blood moves, and breaking armor too? No, this is not good. It's an entire game's worth of options in one level, and then on top of that, there's dozens more upgrades to unlock. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it isn't cool, I'm not saying I didn't have fun with it, but it leads to a game where the emphasis is on the insane amount of wacky shit you can do, which I imagine is not what many fans of the original were hoping for. It is very much the DMC5 of 3D Ninja Gaiden, and that's not a good thing overall, despite the good aspects of that comparison that are present. I do actually appreciate the introduction of the ultimate attack through the upgrade shop though. Spending Ninja Coin to unlock the level 2 ultimate, and especially the very important on-landing ultimate charge, is a smart move. This mechanic hasn't actually been presented in-game before, so thankfully they're doing it here, finally. Making it something you have to purchase is a good way to get people to notice it and care to try it out. I understand that some veterans are going to be upset that they can't just start doing instant ultimate attacks right away, but get over it, you'll be fine. Like the other games, runaway ultimate spam is insanely effective in the majority of fights, but the interesting change is how Essence works. Essence is no longer split across magic, health, and XP, it's all health now, and that amount of health per orb is quite small. So the absorption of Essence for an ultimate is always a healing choice, because enemies hit very hard in this game. You can lose half a health bar in a single hit if you aren't careful, so you might think you're coasting by spamming ultimates, but then you get touched and now you feel bad for using all those orbs. I'm a little torn on this change. I do like the ultimate versus healing choice, but I also miss the ultimate versus XP choice that affected your progression if you did it too much. I don't know, they're both pretty flawed systems, but I think this new one has the potential to feel more important long term, since building credits didn't mean anything once you were really good at the old games. Enemy aggression and enemy damage is the key to this game's difficulty, and personally that's how I remember the other games being. I remember shuriken guys grabbing me and taking over half my health bar in Ninja Gaiden 2. I feared those enemies, and I fear these ones too. I imagine there's gonna be criticism that you basically play every fight the same way, but I already did that in the last games. Strike into launcher, Izuna drop, executions, flying swallow, ultimates, spam the staff moves. I'm not saying there aren't fundamental differences caused by the big changes to mobility and all that, but the game got me to do fun Ninja Gaiden stuff and use all my tools, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm sure the fast zip fly around playstyle is not going to be to everyone's taste, but I found it pretty fun. Integrating all the new blood attacks was really fun, not just for breaking armor, but to push enemies back, get airborne to avoid incoming attacks, and do focus damage. Berserk mode kills are flashy and satisfying as hell, and since the blood gauge runs out so quickly, it's a fun choice between waiting for the visual cue of enemy armor and reacting to it, or preemptively using blood moves, hoping for an armored state. It all depends on your reaction time, and mine is below average. That makes parrying a no-go for me unless I'm specifically waiting for it, and even then I fuck it up a lot. I imagine this game feels quite different to you if you're good at parries. It probably changes boss fights a lot, and I think if the inclusion of the parry and perfect dodges kills this game for you as a classic Ninja Gaiden fan, that's totally fair. For those of us who aren't good at these kinds of parries though, we gotta use other methods, and for me it's been quite fun. Due to the addition of real-time weapon switching, I used a lot more weapon variety, switching from an air combo with the swords to an ultimate with the staff seamlessly. I used the long-range weapon more than I would have if I'd had to switch to it in a menu. The multi-weapon extensions of air combos feel great, and in my experience, pretty balanced due to the enemies that will challenge you in the air with their leaping attacks or long-range projectiles. I got hit out of the air a bunch for not paying attention and air dodging, reminding me not to fuck around when I know it's not safe. And while I was able to get away with runaway ultimate spam a lot of the time, I wasn't in the boss fights. A lot of the bosses either have straight up immunity to ultimates in situations outside of a counter hit, or they will charge straight at you if you try to run away ultimate against them. But I'm not crazy about most of these boss fights, and that's true for the other games. I highly dislike most Ninja Gaiden bosses. This game is no exception. I do not like any of the fights against big tanky masses. However, the humanoid opponents are great. I spent hours trying to take down Kagachi with no items, and when I finally did, it felt amazing. A true test of skill. However, fights like the giant shrine? No thanks, this isn't fun to me. I used items to get through them. Ninja Gaiden generally shines the brightest in large fights with crowd control, so the insistence on ending every single level with a boss fight leads to a lot of bad boss designs, in my opinion. Now that I've mentioned items, we gotta talk about this game's balance issues and the total babying of players. Gotta get it out of the way, this is the most yellow paint game to ever yellow paint. Yellow paint on ledges, of course, big yellow runnable walls, and every single vertical jump space is marked in yellow, because you're too stupid to notice the 20th one of these and figure out you need to go up. Infuriatingly, even on the hard mode, the game will gift you healing items if you die multiple times in one encounter. Hey, assholes, I didn't ask for your help. Why are you not even giving me the option to refuse this? But the truest example of Ninja Gaiden 4 babying the player comes in the Bayonetta-style health regen on checkpoint. Hardcore Ninja Gaiden fans are going to talk all day about how changing the game's mobility totally fucks the positioning, and now it's become a game that's too focused on big stylish combos, and that's fine, as far as I know they're right. But what I don't hear them talking about is the busted healing system. So let that be my contribution to the discourse. Okay, let's go back in time and look at how the titans of 2000s hack and slash games handled health management. Ninja Gaiden, God of War, and Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry had enemies that would occasionally drop healing orbs. There was a shop where you could use XP to buy healing potions that increased in cost every time, and once you unlocked Devil Trigger, you could activate it to build health back in combat. Ninja Gaiden similarly had enemies that dropped health, which could be absorbed to power ultimates instead of healing, health potions found in exploration, and a shop where you could use XP to buy more. God of War had specific enemies that dropped health, like the Minotaur, and health found in exploration, mainly in chests, while XP was Hey! What? Huh? While XP was exclusively for weapon and magic upgrades. Now, what happened when you died and went back to a checkpoint? Well, Devil May Cry either restarted the entire mission or you used a precious gold orb to respawn at a checkpoint with full health. Ninja Gaiden sent you back to the most recent save point, but only with the health you had when you saved. It did not refill health, but like Devil May Cry, you could get rare resurrection trinkets that gave you full health right there when you died. God of War simply sent you back to the last save or checkpoint with the health you had at the time, giving you just a sliver more health each time you died as a way to make sure players aren't stuck, since the game didn't allow them to carry healing items. All three games had a way of holding you accountable for your health, and that should, in theory, push players to explore, to make interesting shop decisions, to value their resources, and play effectively. It means that there's a survival reason to be defensive and try to exit a victorious fight without losing a lot of health. Because if you could just walk into the next room, die, and go back to 100% for free, the game would fall apart. I think it's a fair point to say players shouldn't be respawned at 1%, and we should give them some kind of buffer, but that's quite different than saying they should get a full health bar. Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition has an alternate mode that does respawn you at the closest checkpoint and fully restores health, which messes up the balance, but that game mode is optional. However, in 2008's DMC4, 2009's Bayonetta, and 2010's Darksiders, full health regen on checkpoint became the model, and it fundamentally changes the genre. If you aren't held responsible for your health, it simply does not matter how much damage you take in the fight as long as you make it out at the end. The next room will put you back at 100% as soon as you die. Your health has little actual value, so why protect it? And when you don't need to protect it, the value of everything else just drops. Even the value of a long, flashy, high-execution combo drops because taking a dangerous, high-health enemy off the board isn't as important because there's less overall danger. And it's not enough to tie your health to some arbitrary ranking system. We need real, tangible reasons to engage. This was one of the most devastating changes they made for the God of War reboot, babying players by removing all consequence for bad defense by introducing checkpoint health regen combined with cooldown-based magic attacks instead of using finite resources, and making XP gain randomized instead of performance-based. There's really no reason to not play like a moron and burn all your resources, because it all comes back for free anyway. This is the experience of Ninja Gaiden 4 through checkpoint health regen and an overabundance of combat options. If you can just get all the health back for free, the decision of ultimate versus healing orb during combat is undercut because it doesn't matter if you exit the fight on the verge of death. Just die and get it all back in the next room. They've completely taken out health management for survival purposes and instead tied it to an arbitrary ranking system like Bayonetta. I'm in a fight without enough healing items to get through it. Well, I can just reload an earlier save and play better to get back to this point with what I need, like the old games, right? Oh wait, I can't do that because they've taken out the multiple save points from the levels, trading them for auto checkpoints. They've created this problem themselves, and their solution is just, oh, have you played shitty and used all your healing items? Well, that's okay, here's more. And when you have 35 different abilities you're struggling to remember, there's not a lot of excitement around unlocking 35 more. When you unlock a new move every 5 minutes, you get numb to it. When the currency you spend to unlock new options is the same as the one to purchase healing items, there is no decision to be made because you don't need to buy healing items when you can heal fully just by resetting the fucking checkpoint. And there are so many items found in the levels anyway. You can just be using them constantly and still never run out. Healing, defense buff, attack buff, health regeneration, blood gauge refill, blood gauge regen. There's like a box in every room, or 2, or 3. You get so many of them that they start converting into currency if you max out, which is a cool feature, but it doesn't matter because there's no shop decisions to be made with that currency. So the game is giving you free healing items if you're dying, it refills your health on respawn, and it constantly gives you items so all currency goes to further expanding your bloated moveset. This is the real problem in Ninja Gaiden 4 to me, because the fun zone is found through challenge, and aspects of this game's fun zone are completely kneecapped by its overly forgiving health system. It's what I've been talking about here for 5 years. It is the fundamental disagreement I have with the Style Bro players that think all you need is flashy combos and a ranking system, and to hell with the rest. I have to actively ignore healing items in order to make the game challenging, which is the same issue DMC5 has, and even to a degree some of the other ones. Do you remember playing Ninja Gaiden back in the day, your first time, and feeling the pain of having to buy a healing item instead of unlocking a cool upgrade? Because you knew that if you didn't, you were screwed? That's gone here, and I hate it. I have to ignore my items in order to have a challenging fight against the bosses, and it shouldn't have to be that way. When you have 8 heals and 6 buff potions when you get to the boss, your first time playing hard mode, something is wrong. I shouldn't be able to play like absolute ass and still beat the boss just because I can heal over and over, since I was able to hold on to all those items due to checkpoint health regen, meaning I never have to heal during the level. Look, I'm just a guy who played Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 a few times and had a lot of fun. I never analyzed the combat theory, but as a big survival horror guy and knowing what I value in old hack and slash resource management, I do know when item systems are badly designed, and I know what the consequence is. I did my best to play around these issues. Like I said, I tried to avoid the use of any items during the main fights and the bosses. Taking down that umbrella bitch without items made me a lot better at the game, and I'm grateful for that experience. The elevator fight on level 13, where there's no checkpoint from the first wave to the mini-boss, was really cool to do with no items. I really had to fight to survive. You can find lots of great fun in Ninja Gaiden 4 if you're actively looking for it. But it's not my job to make your game fun or challenging. Player-imposed limitations and ranking systems are for after the game has done its job and you're pushing for mastery, not to enjoy the base experience on a first playthrough. Now, I did enjoy it in a lot of moments. I played this game for the combat, and when I was engaging in it, I was mostly having a good time. But it started to wear out its welcome. It was around level 9 that I started realizing I wasn't having fun anymore. Level 9 and 10 are these blue environments with blue enemies, fighting a lot of the same toxic dudes and dogs over and over, and I got bored. I started ultimate spamming everything because I was just over it. That's nothing new for Ninja Gaiden. My favorite of the series is the first one, and whenever I play it, halfway through I don't want to continue anymore, because of the level design and some of the enemies. Same thing with DMC3 and the later levels filled with chessmen and those flying angels. Same with Ninja Gaiden 2 and the massive waves of all the same enemy type over and over. It just gets mind-numbing to me, and I eventually shut it off. On top of the fact that this game is just ugly, isn't it? Drab, dark, poor readability. I'm usually not that hard on visuals, but visuals are the main thing you see with your eyeballs, and you have to use your eyeballs all the time. So can we at least get something that isn't gross to look at? We also have these tediously long loading screens after every death, and there will be many deaths. I feel like at least an hour of my playtime so far has been staring at the game waiting for it to load. I started noticing a lot of my deaths came from a lack of effort and attention, just from boredom and burnout. I know it sounds like I don't like this game, and that's not true. I value the fun I had with it. It's just the kind of game where the flaws are so loud and obvious that it's hard to set them aside. Some of the most fun I've had is just loading up the game for a casual friend who's never seen Ninja Gaiden before, just to show off all the cool stuff you can do with the combos and counters, ultimates, and have fun against tough enemies. He was super entertained and thought everything was just badass. And he's right, all this is pretty fucking badass. And when you play it with that view, it's very fun. Playing with all your tools is a really good time. But even my friend, who doesn't know these kinds of games at all, could see how it was kind of mind-numbing at the same time. He could see how hours and hours of this could become too much with all these enemies that just never die, more and more of them. And I said, yeah man, it's such a cool combat system to play with, but I'm kinda over it at this point. I think I'm going to leave it here. I enjoyed Ninja Gaiden 4 enough to give it a spot in my best of the year list. That's how high the highs were, but it could also be a contender for biggest disappointment. It's that kind of game. Thanks for watching.